The chandeliers sparkled overhead, casting a magical glow across my perfect wedding day. I'm Sarah, and just hours ago, I said I do to the man I thought was my soulmate. Looking at my reflection in the ballroom's golden mirrors, I felt like a princess in my white lace dress. Everything seemed perfect, from the pink and white roses on every table to the soft music playing in the background. Sarah, you're glowing. My best friend Maya squeezed my hand as we watched the guests enjoying themselves. James, my new husband, was chatting with some relatives, looking handsome in his black tuxedo. I couldn't help but smile when he caught my eye and winked. But that's when I noticed his mother Diana's expression. She stood in the corner, wearing an expensive navy blue dress, whispering to her sister while staring at me. Something about her gaze made me uneasy, but I pushed the feeling aside. This was my wedding day, and nothing could ruin it. Sarah, dear, Diana's voice cut through the music as she approached. Could you come here for a moment? Her smile didn't reach her eyes, and I felt Maya's hand tighten around mine before letting go. Of course, I replied, smoothing my dress as I walked over. The wedding band on my finger still felt new and strange. Diana's eyes fixed on the pearl necklace I was wearing. I see you're wearing our family heirloom, she said, her voice sharp despite her smile. Who gave you permission to wear it? I touched the pearls gently. James gave them to me this morning. He said it could be my something borrowed. Borrowed? Diana's face turned red. Those pearls were meant for my daughter. How dare you wear them without asking me first? Her voice grew louder, making nearby guests turn to stare. I didn't know, I stammered, feeling my face heat up. James said it would be fine. James doesn't make decisions about family heirlooms. Diana reached for the necklace. Take them off, right now. I stepped back, protecting the necklace with my hand. Please, Diana. Not here. We can talk about this later. Mom? Sarah? What's happening? James appeared beside us, looking confused. He placed his hand on my shoulder, but Diana grabbed his arm. She's wearing my mother's pearls, James. The ones meant for your sister. Diana's voice was shaking. And now she won't give them back. Sarah, maybe you should, James started, but I cut him off. You gave these to me, I said firmly. You said your grandmother would have wanted me to wear them. Diana's face turned an even deeper shade of red. Liar. You're nothing but a gold digger. First my son, now my family's treasures. The music had stopped. Everyone was watching us now. Mom, calm down. James tried to intervene, but Diana wasn't finished. She's been manipulating you from day one, James. Can't you see it? Diana was almost screaming now. She's trying to steal everything from us. Before I could defend myself, James's face changed. The confusion in his eyes turned to anger. In one swift motion, he bent down, took off his leather shoe, and struck me on the head with it. The room went silent. I stood frozen, my hand moving to my throbbing scalp. The pain wasn't just physical, it was the shock, the humiliation, the betrayal. Maya rushed to my side as tears filled my eyes. Oh God, Sarah, James reached for me, but I stepped back. Don't touch me, I whispered, my voice surprisingly steady despite the chaos in my head. Looking around, I saw the horror on our guests' faces. Diana stood there, a small smile playing on her lips. I think we're done here, I said, removing the pearl necklace and letting it fall to the floor. The sound it made seemed to echo through the silent room. As I walked toward the exit, head held high despite the tears streaming down my face, I had no idea that this horrible moment would lead to something much bigger. James's call the next day would change everything, but not in the way anyone expected. I barely remember how I got to the hotel. Maya drove, I think, while I sat in silence, my wedding dress crumpled around me, the spot where the shoe hit still throbbing. The Riverside Hotel's front desk clerk took one look at my tear-stained face and wedding dress and immediately found me a room. No questions asked. Sarah, you need to press charges, Maya said as she helped me out of my dress. Her hands were shaking with anger. What James did, it's assault, and in front of everyone. I sat on the edge of the bed, still in my white slip, feeling numb. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing calls from James, his family, my family, guests. I finally turned it off. The perfect wedding cake we'd spent weeks choosing was probably still sitting there, untouched. The thought made me laugh, a hollow sound that turned into sobs. I just don't understand, I whispered as Maya wrapped a hotel robe around my shoulders. Everything was perfect this morning. How did it all go so wrong? My social media was exploding. Someone had recorded the whole thing, the argument, the shoe, everything. The video was spreading fast. Wedding from Hell was trending locally. Some comments defended James, saying I must have provoked him. Others called for his arrest. Your sister's on her way, Maya said, scrolling through her phone. And your parents are trying to get an earlier flight back from their cruise. A knock at the door made me jump. Maya checked the peephole before opening it. It was Rachel, my makeup artist from the wedding. She looked worried. I brought your overnight bag from the bridal suite, she said, stepping in. And there's something else you should know, she hesitated, glancing at Maya. What is it? I asked, noticing how she clutched her phone. I was taking behind-the-scenes photos all day, for my portfolio, Rachel explained. And I caught something weird earlier. When Diana was getting ready, she pulled up a photo on her phone. The image showed Diana in her navy dress, but what caught my eye was what she was doing. She was on the phone, looking angry, and in her other hand was a document. The camera had caught it at just the right angle. I could make out what looked like bank statements. I wouldn't have thought anything of it, Rachel continued. But right after I took this, she saw me and completely freaked out. Made me delete the photo, but I had automatic backup turned on. Maya took the phone, zooming in. Sarah, look at the numbers on that statement. That's a lot of zeros. Another knock at the door made us all freeze. This time, when Maya checked, she turned to me with a pale face. It's James. I stood up, pulling the robe tighter around me. Don't open it. But then my phone, which I'd briefly turned back on, lit up with a message from him. 6 words that made my blood run cold. I know what my mother did. My hands trembled as I stared at James's message. Maya and Rachel watched me, waiting to see what I'd do. Another text came through. Please, Sarah. It's bigger than you know. Let me explain. Don't you dare open that door, Maya warned. But I was already moving. Something in his messages seemed different, desperate, not angry. I opened the door just enough to see him. James stood there, still in his wedding suit, but now it was wrinkled. His tie was gone, and he looked scared. 5 minutes, I said firmly. That's all you get. He stepped in, stopping when he saw Maya and Rachel. I need to talk to you alone. They stay, I replied. After what you did, you don't get to make demands. James ran his hands through his hair, pacing. The pearls. They weren't just jewelry. There was a USB drive hidden in the clasp. Mom's been laundering money through my company, millions of dollars. The pearls had proof of everything. The room went silent. Maya stepped forward. Is that why you hit her? Over a USB drive? No, James looked at me, his eyes filling with tears. I hit her because I'm a coward. Mom's been controlling me for years with these documents. When she started screaming about the pearls, I panicked. I knew what was on them, what would happen if she found out Sarah had them. Start from the beginning, I demanded. Everything. James sank into a chair. Mom's been using my wedding planning business to clean money for some dangerous people. Every overpriced vendor, every excessive charge, it was all part of her scheme. I found out 6 months ago. But she had proof I'd signed off on everything. She said she'd make sure I went to jail if I didn't play along. Rachel suddenly spoke up, holding out her phone. Like these bank statements. James's face went white when he saw the photo. Where did you get that? What I want to know, I cut in, is why you gave me those pearls if they were so dangerous. Because I wanted it to end, he whispered. I thought if you had the proof, somehow it would all come out and I'd be free. But then Mom realized what I'd done and I broke. God, Sarah, I'm so sorry. My head was spinning. The wedding, the business, the pearls, it was all a front for something darker. Where are the pearls now? Mom has them. She's probably destroyed the drive already, he looked defeated. Just then, my phone buzzed with an unknown number. When I answered, a gruff voice spoke. Mrs. Anderson? This is Detective Martinez. We need you to come down to the station. We've just arrested your mother-in-law for trying to leave the country. She had some interesting jewelry with her. I put the phone on speaker as the detective continued. We've been investigating the Anderson Wedding Company for months. The evidence in those pearls. It's everything we needed. But we need your statement about what happened today. Looking at James, I saw the relief wash over his face. His mother's control was finally ending. But as I looked at him, I didn't feel pity or forgiveness. Instead, I felt strength. I'll be right there, detective, I said. And I have a lot to tell you. Maya squeezed my hand as I gathered my things. James stood up. Sarah, please. Save it for your statement, I cut him off. You hit me in front of 100 witnesses. Whatever happens next, you did that all on your own. The police station buzzed with activity even at this late hour. I sat in an interview room, still wearing my hotel robe over my slip, giving my statement to Detective Martinez. She was a sharp-eyed woman who wrote down every detail about the wedding, the pearls, and James's confession. Here's what we know, Martinez said, spreading photographs across the table. Diana Anderson has been using her son's wedding planning business to launder money for the past 5 years. High-profile weddings, inflated vendor costs, fake service charges, all of it going to offshore accounts. I stared at the photos, surveillance shots of Diana meeting with people in dark cars, spreadsheets showing millions in transactions, and a close-up of the pearl necklace. The USB drive was cleverly hidden in what looked like a simple clasp. The pearls were her backup plan, Martinez explained. Every transaction, every contact, everything she needed to either continue her operation or bargain her way out of trouble. She never thought her son would give them to you. Maya, who had insisted on staying with me, leaned forward. But why keep records at all? Isn't that risky? Insurance, I realized, the pieces clicking together. She needed proof that James was involved to keep him quiet, but she kept it close, literally around her neck where she thought it was safe. Detective Martinez nodded. Exactly. And now we need your help. We've got Diana in custody, but there's more to uncover. The wedding today, it was supposed to be her biggest operation yet. She pulled out more photos. I recognized some of the vendors from my wedding. The florist charged us 3 times the normal rate, the caterer with the excessive special handling fees. The photographer needed an unusual cash deposit. All these businesses, Martinez pointed to each photo, are connected to a larger network. Diana wasn't just laundering money, she was helping hide funds for an entire criminal organization. Your wedding was going to be their biggest payday yet. My stomach churned. All those guests. Were any of them? Some were under surveillance, yes. We've been watching for months, but we needed concrete evidence. Those pearls gave us everything. Just then, another detective poked his head in. Martinez, you need to see this. The Anderson Company's accounts, they're being drained. Someone's moving the money right now. Martinez jumped up. Can we trace it? Working on it. But there's something else. We found emails. The wedding wasn't just about money laundering. They were planning something bigger for tomorrow. I felt cold despite my robe. Tomorrow. Martinez turned to me. Mrs. Anderson, Sarah, we need to move you to a safe location. Right now. What? Why? Maya grabbed my hand. Because according to these emails, the wedding was just phase 1. Phase 2 was scheduled for tomorrow, and it involved you specifically. As if on cue, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. The game isn't over, Sarah dear. It's just beginning. Love, Diana. Martinez quickly bagged my phone as evidence. We're taking you to a safe house. Both of you, she nodded to Maya. And Sarah, we're going to need you to help us set a trap. Looking at the evidence spread across the table, the photos, the bank statements, the records of my wedding being used for crime, I felt something shift inside me. The hurt bride was gone. In her place was someone stronger, someone ready to fight back. Tell me what you need me to do. The safe house was a small apartment on the outskirts of town. Detective Martinez's team had swept it for bugs twice before letting us in. Maya and I sat at a scratched kitchen table while Martinez laid out the plan. Diana's encrypted phone gave us access to her network, Martinez explained, showing us a complex diagram of connections. But she's still managing to run things from inside. We need to shut it all down at once. And you need me as bait, I said, understanding dawning. I was still in my slip with the hotel robe, but someone had brought me clothes, plain jeans and a sweater. Normal clothes for what was turning out to be the most abnormal day of my life. We've intercepted messages about a meeting tomorrow, Martinez continued. They think you still have access to crucial information. Information worth killing for. Maya's hand found mine under the table. This is insane. She's been through enough today? But I was already thinking it through. The wedding venue's security cameras, I said suddenly. Rachel mentioned backing up her photos automatically. What if there's backup security footage too? Martinez's eyes lit up. The venue's system. We could access their cloud storage. And I know all the passwords, I added. James gave them to me for the planning. The next few hours were a blur of activity. We discovered the venue's cameras had caught everything, including meetings and back rooms we weren't supposed to know about. Diana's network had been using my wedding as cover for a massive exchange of information and goods. Look at this, Maya pointed to footage from the bridal suite. While you were getting ready, 3 different men came to speak with Diana, all carrying identical blue gift bags. Those bags, Martinez leaned in closer. We've seen them before in other operations. They're used to transport data drives. I watched myself on the screen, blissfully getting my makeup done while criminals used my wedding as their personal exchange center. The anger I felt was different, now cold and focused. So, what's the plan, I asked? Martinez smiled. Tomorrow, you're going to attend what they think is a simple information exchange. But really, she laid out a series of photos. You're going to help us take down their entire operation. The coffee shop looked ordinary enough, morning sunlight streaming through large windows, the smell of fresh pastries in the air. I sat at a corner table, wearing a wire so thin it was practically invisible. In my hand, I clutched a USB drive that Martinez's team had prepared. Target approaching, Maya's voice came through my nearly invisible earpiece. She was posed as a casual customer, typing on her laptop nearby. Diana's lawyer, right on schedule. A tall man in an expensive suit slid into the seat across from me. Mrs. Anderson, he smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. I trust you've reconsidered your position about the wedding footage. I have what Diana wants, I replied, keeping my voice steady. My hands wanted to shake, but I wouldn't let them. But I need something first. And what would that be? He stirred his coffee, looking almost bored. The truth. All of it. Why me? Why my wedding? He leaned back, studying me. You don't know, do you? Your father's company, the one that went bankrupt 5 years ago? Diana was behind that. She needed a vulnerable target, someone desperate enough to not ask questions when James suddenly showed interest. The revelation hit me like a punch to the stomach. My dad's business, the depression he'd fallen into, my family's struggle, it was all part of Diana's plan. You were perfect, he continued, smirking. Young, naive, so grateful for James's attention. The ideal cover for our operation. Operation's over, I said, clearly the signal. Everything happened at once. Martinez's team moved in from every direction. The lawyer reached for something under his jacket, but Maya was faster, knocking his coffee into his lap. He yelled, jumping up right into the arms of two officers. Through my earpiece, I heard multiple coordinated arrests happening across the city. Diana's entire network was taken down simultaneously. Minutes later, Martinez strode in, looking satisfied. We got them all. Including some very interesting documents from your friend here. She nodded at the lawyer being led away in handcuffs. Diana, I asked. Trying to make a deal. But with this evidence, Martinez held up the USB drive we'd used as bait. She won't have much to bargain with. I looked around the coffee shop, now full of police gathering evidence. Is it over? Martinez squeezed my shoulder. The criminal part is. The rest. That's up to you. The courtroom was packed 3 months later. I sat straight-backed in a simple blue dress, watching Diana and her network receive their sentences. James was there too, having taken a plea deal in exchange for his testimony against his mother. Mrs. Anderson orchestrated a sophisticated money laundering operation, the judge announced, her voice firm. Using her son's wedding planning business to hide criminal activities, manipulating vulnerable families, and ultimately resorting to violence. The court sentences her to 20 years. Diana didn't look at me as they led her away. James tried to catch my eye, but I focused straight ahead. The divorce papers had been finalized last week. Outside the courthouse, reporters waited with cameras and microphones. Maya stood beside me as I made a brief statement. Today isn't just about justice for me, I said into the microphone. It's for every family they targeted, every bride whose special day they tried to ruin. Sometimes the happiest day of your life can turn into your strongest moment. Later that evening, I stood in my new apartment, looking out over the city lights. The box of wedding gifts had been donated, the dress given to a charity. My finger where the ring had been was finally losing its tan line. My phone buzzed a text from Maya, ready for tomorrow. I smiled, looking at the business cards on my counter. Sarah Mitchell, wedding security consultant. After my story went viral, I'd been approached by several wedding planning companies. Turns out my experience made me uniquely qualified to spot red flags in the industry. Ready, I texted back. The city lights twinkled like stars, and for the first time in months, I felt truly free. My wedding day had been a disaster, but it had given me something more valuable than a perfect ceremony. It had shown me my strength. Sometimes the worst day of your life can lead you to your best future. The end.